What is up, folks? My name is Justin Khanna. This is continued breakdown of the entire first season of The Bear. This is episode 6.
The name's series.
Very salty.
Named after... No, fuck off, sugar. We are not doing raisins. Don't do that. I don't want to. We're not fucking doing raisins. Anyway, cousin.
Okay. I'm seeing a raisin here, and I know seems incredibly insensitive because this scene is supposed to be like remembering Carmen's brother, which I totally am not like trying to undermine in any way, but like they said no raisins in this recipe, and yet like as I'm watching this scene happen, I'm like, there are definitely raisins in this.
And Bill Murray says...
Okay, this is another really interesting scene. I looked up, so I was so curious how in the world the Bear got access to Grace to shoot the scene when Carmen's in New York, but it's really inside of the old Grace space. And as I was looking it up, I looked and found that they completely redid the dining room. The kitchen is nearly the same, but the dining room looks like this now. And so this scene is also shot in the same restaurant where they shot that New York scene, which is great, the old Grace space. And so it's a new concept. It has this very kind of like lush gold and black and kind of plants all over the place kind of vibe.
Right?
I'm nearly positive. And again, someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong.
The king. Fucking Bill Murray.
Yeah, no, I understand who that is.
Oh, we used to go there, New Line Tavern, after work. Used to go have a beer with my coworker there, at New Line Tavern.
Yo, listen up. Okay, I just yell like that?
Yeah, make it worth it.
Take this green tape.
So good. This scene, and I'm speaking for everybody here, but like everybody's gotten this ranting and raving from the dishwasher. And if it hasn't happened, what it normally happens is kind of what you saw play out there, but the dishwasher will go talk to someone in management and they'll say, hey, it really sucks to constantly have to take the tape off of deli containers when I'm going to wash delis through the dishwashing machine. And he's going to say it here, but it's like it gets slimy. It will get stuck inside of the dishwasher, which is not great. And it's just so tedious. And so what will sometimes happen if he would go talk to Carmen, Carmen would give this speech, or he would go to the dishwasher and say, you need to stand up in front of everybody and tell them exactly, like, nearly every single restaurant I've worked at has gone through this spiel. And for restaurants that are really bad, people just can't seem to get it in their skulls that they need to respect the dishwashers, it ends up being something where like twice a week this conversation will happen, and it'll come from both sides. It'll come from management, and then it will come from the porter or the dishwasher. And it's super true. Like if everybody just does their part and takes the tape off, it's easier for the dishwasher. And I think it's just more respectful, and a lot of people don't do it. And so this also is like super accurate. This definitely happens in kitchens.
It takes 5 seconds. Because once it's soapy and our fingers are pruned, we can't fuck with this shit. Cool?
Yes, chef. 2 hours to open, chefs.
Yo, chef, I think this new dish is dog.
Great, can we jam on that later?
About that elevated comfort.
Later is better for me,
short
chef.
ribs, but on the risotto I use it at
Hey, T, watch those peppers.
It's easily adaptable. We can make it great to go.
Are you saying risotto to go to me? I am barely convinced we're ready for it to go at all.
I'm just saying if you use it dine in, dine out. Plus we're using ingredients that are just lying around here. It's pretty smart. Let's just try it. I don't understand.
Chef.
It's right here. You can have a taste.
Chef,
It's right
hey,
here.
listen to me, please. One.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but etouffee stock, I get the kind of like bell pepper onion base, but then like prawns, I was like the head-on shrimp. It's like what other menu item on the beef? And other people have talked about this too. Well, it's no wonder that they weren't able to stay in business or be profitable because they have such a big menu, blah, blah, blah. They're called the beef, but they have all these other menu items on the, I get it. But what is accurate is Sydney saying that her using ingredients that are already in the restaurant for a dish that she wants to see on the menu, that totally happens. And that's a way better way to convince your manager to put a dish on the menu or run it as a special or change up something on your menu. But I'm just not convinced that the ingredients she's using in her actual dish that she's talking about are things that this restaurant uses, because I don't think we've seen short rib in other things. I don't think we've seen carnaroli rice in anything else. I don't think, or arborio rice. I don't think we've seen head-on prawns in anything else on this menu. If you're enjoying this so far, I would really appreciate a like on this video. It does a little fun confetti thing when you hit it. And also subscribing to this channel, make sure that the YouTube algorithm knows that more folks want to see content like this. It helps me continue to produce content like this for you folks. And I would just really appreciate a gentle tap of that button. Let's get back to it.
You good, man?
Yeah, you?
Yeah. You know if you
need anything, like, whatever, you know?
Like what?
But I don't know, like, fuck it. Look, man, when I tried out for the Cubs, I was playing on the farm team, and they wouldn't put me up, and I was broke. And I got pretty good at figuring out places to stay.
This isn't crazy common. Again, if you folks have stories, I'd love to hear them down low in the comments of people sleeping at the restaurant. I've heard about it a couple of times, whether it's like we're having a big push, then we need to open. I live a super far long distance away from the restaurant. It's something where I'm moving house and I need to stay somewhere for just a night. 9 times out of 10, you'd just rather stay with someone's house that is close by versus sleeping at the restaurant. I don't know. This isn't super common, and that's, I think, why it's getting such a kind of tilted head look when Marcus does this. So it looks to me like he's keeping track of just different variations of recipes. So you see like one is 25 grams, 30 grams, 45, 40 grams, 50 grams, 55 grams on some sort of ingredient and how that changes the recipe overall. Marcus is doing all of this peripherally. So he's taking other sources of inspiration and attempting to kind of learn it as a kind of distant third party. And oftentimes, and I think some people get frustrated with this too, the recipes in cookbooks aren't the recipes that they use at the restaurants. They're slightly adapted so that they have it, easier to find ingredients or something like that. And, this sucks to say, but like, this is one of the reasons why I'm such a big advocate for people to go and like stage around or get a lot of like varied experience early in your career, or when you get this kind of mode that Marcus is in, where all you want to do is be a sponge and all you want to do is learn a bunch of different stuff. Sure, you could get a bunch of cookbooks and you could read through them and you could do some recipe testing, or you could go into an environment where you're kind of just constantly surrounded by 6 other pastry chefs who are working on a different menu than what you're used to. And all of that will start to rub off, and you'll do techniques that you're not used to, and you'll work with ingredients that you haven't worked with before. And you'll come up with something that you'll tie it to something that you've been trying to work on and be like, oh yeah, I could totally do something like that. And the other thing that's valuable, once you get a specific repertoire, and that's why I named my company what I named it, of skills, is that you can go out to eat and have these moments kind of spark in your brain. You'll have a flavor combination or eat something presented in a way that has a texture that you have been always trying to kind of nail, and you can get that inspiration more further down the track in your career. That's why I go out to eat so much, because it's like the hands-on stuff I kind of have my head wrapped around, but the new flavor combinations is really exciting to me. And so I don't know, just a point on creativity. And, if you're feeling stuck in a job where you potentially aren't having as much creative stimulation as you want, a la Marcus, being able to experience something different can sometimes get you out of that funk.
Damn, chef. Hi, these are cola braised short ribs with risotto, and they're yours.
Does this happen frequently? So, yes, I guess. Like, the idea that you would make something and give a tasting version, because she clearly plated it up multiple times, and she took one that they didn't taste and brought it out to a customer. I've seen this happen before. Like, we would do it sometimes because we would have a bar that people would sit at, and if I was working on a dish, or one of my line cooks came up with something, or, we were just slow on a night and someone was just screwing around and put something in the fryer and battered it in a fun way, we would plate it up and send it to people at the bar. Totally. And so it's not to say that this doesn't happen. It's just, spoiler alert here, like, this is a food critic that she's serving this to. And so that piece is a little bit interesting, because especially someone like Carmen, and Carmen's running around and doing a bunch of other things, but if he is the person who he is in this show, Carmen might have seen him, or Sydney might know who he is. Because, in some of these big cities, those high-profile food critics, they tend to have known faces. People know who they are. This is just interesting that this happened the way that it happened.
Okay, checks. Low boys look great,
Okay,
guys.
labeled and knolled delis. Great sign. The lettuce sitting inside of a tray instead of just sitting on the rack of the lowboy. Also great. I still think that there's like a little bit of a drying out of the leaves that's potentially happening here. So seeing like a damp towel on top of these or seeing them plastic wrapped would obviously be a little bit better. But she's happy with the way that these look.
What's going on with these edges, Chef? Gotta be cleaner than that.
Knife is shit.
Okay, well, you gotta sharpen it.
Watch my sharpen and chill video.
My gun? Any of you motherfuckers take my gun?
This might be just city specific. Everybody has stuff that happens in and around their restaurant, but the idea of restaurants having the product that they have, like food and beverage, that's the thing that we have to trade. And so you see it multiple times in this show, whether it's Fack, Maddie Matheson's character, being offered food, it's the people outside being offered food and drink, and then just being, you know, super clear on like, please don't tell you can't include your friends to come here, but like, if you guys stop fighting outside of our restaurant, we'll give you food every single week or whatever the arrangement is that they make. I just think it's a really funny thing that restaurants, that's what we have to trade. That's what we do. That's what we love. And so if and when a problem arises, that's what we will offer up in exchange for whatever we want is food. And because it's such a universally accepted and appreciated token of appreciation, the food goes over well in most interactions and is kind of a good currency to use. I had the funniest chef instructor in culinary school. He was this old school French guy, and he would talk about this because he was in the time when all of the stoves were powered by wood. And so he would talk about when he was, I think it was roasting chicken, can't exactly remember, but he was like, and we didn't have tongs. And so what he would do is he would dip his hands in ice water, similar to what's happening here, and then he would turn all of his little pieces of protein over. Or he would like reach his hand inside of a saute pan and flip things over. And, you know, because it's two things. The sensation of being cold kind of takes a little bit of time for the heat to register in your brain. But then at the same time, because you have this layer of water that's kind of like protecting your hands, you can actually like touch things and not have them burn yourself immediately because the water has to evaporate in order for your skin to actually get quote unquote seared. What is risky about that is that you could get a steam burn because the water on your hands can conduct heat and then it gets really, really hot. And that's also not fun.
This place used to be cool, man.
My game has improved 300% in 2 months. This place is organized, clean, and smooth, and
total station domination. She's feeling it.
All right, let's 86
Still have yet to see anybody prepping ravioli.
86 ravioli.
So let's fire 2 chicken peppers, 2 sausage pepper, 2 more to dough. Fire 1 more sausage pepper, 1 more to dough. Let me get 10 beef.
This resonated with a lot of folks because Carmen is using a cake tester. So this is marketed as a cake tester. It is a bunch of different brands make them, but it's a very thin piece of metal. And anybody who's read the back of a box of cake mix knows that when they will say bake until a toothpick is inserted and comes out clean. And what that means is that there's no batter that's uncooked and the starch hasn't gelatinized inside of that batter. And so then the cake is ready to go. And you can certainly use these for that purpose, but because these are made of metal and not wood, and they're so thin, they conduct heat really quickly. So you can take this cake tester and you can insert it into a steak. You can put it into a piece of salmon. You can put it into a bone-in chicken leg like he's doing here. And when you take it out, the heat from that, if you put it either on the place on your wrist where you can normally take your pulse, or if you put it underneath your lip, it will feel warm. And if it feels warm, that means the inside of that protein is warm. It doesn't exactly tell you like this is 125 degrees inside, right? But the thing that was most helpful to me as I was working protein stations is if I put a cake tester inside of a piece of protein and I pulled it out and I put it on my lip and it was cold, that was like, nope. Not even close. Like you still have a ways to go on this piece of protein. And so it's not like we use it to accurately predict like this is exactly medium rare. But the other thing, and so it was helpful for me as a protein line cook to pay attention to the really two ends of that heat spectrum. So if I pulled something out and it was something that I needed to cook to like a piece of fish, right? And you pull it out and you put it on your lip and it's hot, like you can feel that it's hot. That's a really bad sign because now it's like, oh my God, I might have overcooked it. And then the same on the other end of the spectrum, if it's cold, if it's ice cold and you put it on your lip, you're like, oh man, that is definitely not cooked yet. And so it's valuable for us because it's a very quick way. I've cooked probably hundreds of pieces of like beef and chicken and pork. And so what I'm most familiar with is using it with fish is you can feel how the cake tester enters the fillet. And that's like a really weird kind of like very tactile way to talk about doneness, but I can feel the way that the cake tester penetrates the fish and I can just tell if it's there or if it's not. I don't even have to check the temperature. I can just poke them and I can have a full saute pan of 6 pieces of fish cooking in it at the same time. And I can just go by and I can poke, which is also really valuable because if you often see fine dining presentations where they won't even slice the meat, they'll just serve you a whole piece of meat. It's not very attractive to have a giant probed hole of a thermometer going into that piece of meat. It's more full of finesse to be able to show that I was able to nail this temperature without even checking the temperature of this protein. And so what people will often do is gravitate towards cake testers because they make a hole that's so small that you can't even tell that you inserted anything into the meat. And so hopefully that's a little bit of a fun explainer on why Carmen's using a cake tester and why chefs all over the world use cake testers. Definitely get down on this. I kind of want a sauce with it though. Is there no sauce? All right,
can I get 2 chicken, 3 beefs, all day, please?
2 chicken, 3 beef, all day, chef.
Thank you, chefs.
Hey, want to know what happened out there?
No, you do not.
This has been episode 6 of The Bear. I think a lot of people know what comes up next in episode 7. I'm really excited to break that one down for you folks. Thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to like this video, and who knows, go back and like the other videos in these series if you haven't already. My name is Justin Khanna. I'll talk to you folks in the next one.